I will start with this by promising I did not gain a following on TikTok by dancing on a table. But I will also start by informing you that yes, I was a Dunwoody police officer about 4 years ago when I uncovered that one of our lieutenants was targeting officers sexually, and through TikTok later discovered that he was targeting children in our community sexually. I couldn't figure out why I kept being written up for things that really weren't policy violations, like wearing a hat indoors or supposedly speeding in my patrol car. But I can tell you this, that we realized really quickly when those officers that were victimized came to me and we started comparing notes that this is what that lieutenant would do. He would groom people. One of his grooming techniques is that he would bring you close to him by writing you up. So you go, hey, Lieutenant, you know, why do I keep being written up? I just want to be a good police officer. And then he would take you under his wing and eventually invite you out, and there would be alcohol, and unfortunately that's what a lot of officers fell into. I did not. I refused to be groomed, and I refused to contact him outside of work or anything like that. And suddenly I found myself under back-to-back internal affairs investigations for things I did not do. Finally, on the final one, they said that I was speeding in my patrol car. They did not fire me for that. They said that I was lied when they asked me about it. And it took 3 years until under a Department of Labor hearing that the chief under oath admitted that I never broke a single policy. For that Department of Labor hearing, the city spent $200,000 to take away my 10 grand of unemployment benefits. The city continually fights, and even recently in one of our whistleblower cases with Brian Castellanos and his wife, Layla Castellanos, a civil case, the jury ruled in our favor. And they luckily were able to walk away with at least a ruling in their favor that will help them with the EEOC. You're gonna have to excuse me, but that will help them go forward and try to help with their EEOC complaint and push their case even forward so they can get the justice that they deserve as victims. I can tell you in the aftermath of having my badge taken from me that I was very alone. I was very depressed, and I felt like I had lost my identity. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I can tell you this, I don't know when I woke up and decided to fight, but it happened. I took that TikTok following of like 10,000 people at the time, and I started posting about our story, and it very quickly grew. And I was surprised to learn that we had a power that the city didn't have. And that was the court of public opinion, and I was telling people our story and the truth. And very quickly they realized that it mattered. What I did also learn was that doesn't mean I knew how to fight. The city was running circles around me in the news at the beginning. But I can tell you after years of being in the news against them that eventually we got the upper hand because we learned what they were going to say, because every single agency that tries to step on a whistleblower has the same exact playbook, and they say the same exact thing. I can tell you that through that outreach, I had officers from across the country reach out to me. I can tell you that while I was out trying to find myself, I spoke to Miss Jane Turner, who reached out to me and gave me the time of day to listen to my entire story and tell me the most important thing I ever heard, which was that never should have happened to me, and that I was a good police officer, and that I never should have been fired. And that was when I learned the power of listening to a whistleblower just to tell them that so they know that what they did was right. Because we live in a world where they're very confused. We live in a world where every time you speak up, people tell you that you're not supposed to, or that it's not the right time, or it's not the right place. I can tell you that our support group, the Lamplighter Project, eventually grew into a nonprofit organization, and we have spoken to officers across the country, and we've assisted in over 25 different states. I can tell you about cases with like a rookie police officer up north who contacted me, who told me she was sexually assaulted by a detective at a police function, and when she reported it, she was arrested because they said that she lied as a police officer by filing that report. She went on to win. I can tell you that the sergeant in Illinois who released footage that the chief said did not exist of a man dying in police custody, when he released that footage to the news and to the family, that he is facing 20 years in jail, but the officers that did that, they're still on patrol. I can tell you of a sergeant in New York who helped with the Internal Affairs Bureau uncover a ring of over 300 police officers in a single precinct who were taking bribes and running essentially a street gang. And later, because they knew it would hurt the public image of the police department, they decided to just go after the person that was running that ring, I can tell you also that that sergeant later got into a bar fight trying to help his friend years later, and one of those officers responded to the scene and arrested only him. I can tell you a bunch of other stories, but I'll say this. From departments in rural areas where a chief demanded a mother to have intercourse with them to keep their son out of jail, to exposing ticket quotas in Texas, to exposing body cam footage being deleted by agencies on purpose under the guise of accidental activations. I have heard the stories of cops who spoke out at great personal risk, as I believe I did as well. People who chose to protect people over policy. We named our project the Lamplighter Project because Lamplighters are ethical law enforcement officers who, as Serpico said, illuminate the darkness so that way the roaches scurry away. We are often targeted, ostracized, and blacklisted from our careers for doing so. And sadly, law enforcement whistleblowers are some of the most vulnerable whistleblowers. Because of rulings like the Garcetti decision that limited their freedom of speech, because of their duty to report misconduct, but no real duty to investigate that reported misconduct, they have to expose themselves and be fired sometimes for reporting it and sometimes for not. Commanders like at the city of Dunwoody who believed that if they wrote in on official police letterhead that everyone would believe that that's the truth, and it took years to prove that that's not the case. Whistleblowers of all types will never be safe or truly protected until we protect law enforcement whistleblowers, because one day they will be the ones locally at scale who will be enforcing the protections that we create. Whistleblowers of all types, long before picking up their uniform or their career, they were simply people who believed in helping people. They were people that like to stand up for themselves, their communities, and fight for what they believe in. It's important to note that our founders of this nation were known as patriots, but they were not born as them. People against all odds who stood up for what they thought was right and what they believed on founded this country, and that is no difference in the essence of whistleblowing. And now I understand why Jane calls whistleblowers heroes, because as I look around this room, and just like every lamplighter call I've ever taken, the presence of the people in this room are the type of people that the founders of this nation would be proud of and who they always intended to protect. As founders knew, although difficult, someone must stand. So I ask anyone that would oppose whistleblowers this: what would you have us do? Turn away? No, not these people, not this community, not ever. To whistleblowers who feel tired, forgotten, or lost, I have this message for you. The greatest lie you were ever told was that you are alone in this. And I tell you this, if there was ever a time to fight, it is now. So fight, ethically, wholly, and completely. And lastly, as I've said to every lamplighter that I have ever spoken to, I said at National Whistleblower Day last year, I say again now, to any officer out there that needs help, any officer that's trying to find the courage to speak up, they can take your gun, they can take your badge, but they can never take away the fact that you're a cop. You just chose to police the police, which is exactly what the public asked you to do. Thank you.